The views and opinions of the guest do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Radio Network, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Radio Network.
This is Ryan from Genessier, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour, your source for all hard rock, heavy metal, new metal, alternative, punk, horror punk, hardcore, rock, and all local bands, with your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I'm your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather, and as always, I'm bringing you guys awesome interviews. Today, it's an honor and a privilege to have Mr. Ryan of Genessier. Genessier signs with Music Gallery International. Genessier have also written the soundtrack to the horror short film Shovel, available to stream now. Also, their current album, Graces the Bone, is out now. You want to get out and check that out. Plus, folks, I'm telling you, Genessier with this short film Shovel, the score and everything with it, you are missing out if you've not got to check this out so far. So, Ron, my man, how's it going?
It's going awesome. Super excited. That movie just came out. We just kind of like launched it full force and getting some good feedback on it. So, yeah.
We're gonna dive into the juicy horror stuff here in just a little bit because that's up my alley. That is way up my alley, good sir.
Nice.
So, Genessier caught the attention of Sean Baruch. Sean Baruch, how did this come together, and how's it been working with Music Gallery International so far, man?
Oh, it's going awesome. It's you know, I have a friend here in Denver who is a publicist and has been working with Sean forever. And, you know, I started this Genessier project back in like 2012. And after we finished up the first album, they were just so excited about it. And I was like, what are you guys so excited about? They're like, this is amazing. We love your album. It's one of the best we've heard. And it's like, nah, whatever. It's like a fun project for me and my friend to do. And it just turned out to be super scary. And these guys loved it. And they've just been on me ever since. Like, you got to work with us. We want to work with you. And I'm just like, I don't know. I'm doing this other band right now. I don't know if I can do that full time, but it just worked out, and now we're doing it. And I'm just glad that they finally talked me into going ahead and working with them on this whole deal. So I'm excited.
Yeah, but once you have somebody kind of after you like that, especially when Graces the Bone comes out and after that excites them, does that put the juices back into the excitement of all this for you guys?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's like, oh, wow. Okay, yeah, that was pretty fun. You know, it's fun making it, and it's like got that emotion out and did the thing I really wanted to do, and it sounded just the way I wanted it. Mm-hmm. And I never thought of it like really as anything else except for a production experiment. So to have somebody say, "Oh, you could take this on the road and people would love it," and you know, if you would get with the label, you could take this even further. And I'm like, what? All right. When they said this, I was like, yeah, I want to go for it. So, yeah, I've been super motivated. I've, like, changed out my whole house to accommodate working on new material and, you know, already got a new song almost done and just going for it.
Now we're going to dive into the stuff that excites me the most. What's impressed or excited you the most about writing the score for the horror short film Shovel? Did you already have an idea of what you wanted to do when you guys were talking about it, or how did this all come together?
It's a weird coincidence with that because it's like our first goal was at Genessier was to make some, I don't know, I guess like atmospheric haunted mansion sounding songs. And it was like, okay, we love this. So we were going to really weird places out in the middle of nowhere, like cement factories and just old deserted houses, and just recording the atmosphere. And like, then we started working on this Shovel movie with my horror company, Bloodshed Death Bath Productions. And it's like, you know, this would be sweet if like visually this could fit what we're doing with the Genessier stuff, like so perfectly with the pacing and everything. And it was like, they kind of like formed together. It was pretty weird how it all came together, but it was awesome.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You mentioned that you work in a haunted house during Halloween season. Is that right?
I worked in haunted houses, like all through high school. We had to have like community service hours, so I'd always go work at the local haunted house. And after I got out of high school, I worked for a company here in town called Distortions, and they did a haunted house called Brutal Planet, which was actually co-owned by Alice Cooper. So he was there all the time.
Nice.
So I worked at this big, huge haunted house in Denver called Brutal Planet. We'd always get the best haunted house in the nation award every year by Fangoria and stuff. And I was like, what? It was amazing. And, yeah, I learned a lot from that because I worked there for like 4 years after that.
Now, I want to ask this because Genessier is a horror electronic industrial band. Did that have a huge influence on the style you guys want to go down to? I mean, I know obviously you love horror stuff, but did that kick it up a notch also as you working in a haunted house like that?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, the idea really resonated with that visual of when I worked in this certain area for just non-stop amount of time for like 30 hours, straight. You're just working in this one environment with this one sound, and it's just super, super visually frightening. And you're like, okay, now I have to endure this for like 40 hours. I don't know, this is crazy. And that idea of making that into a song, that kind of visual element, translate it into a song, that's kind of what it was.
What was the appeal for Genessier to be a horror band kind of deal? What was the appeal for this to say, okay, let's just be horror related. Let's go down this alley.
Well, we were, me and my partner who worked on it, Eddie Breidenbach, we worked on an ambient project previously. So super, super dreamy, super surreal, just like dreamy kind of atmospheric. Like the songs were like 30 minutes long. It was meant to put you to sleep. So we wanted to do like this complete opposite of that. Say, okay, so that's like the really like nice and like cool layers of stuff, but let's go to the extreme opposite, like horror, death, destruction sound. And we both were like, yes, that's what we need to do now. And we just knew we needed to do that. And it was a perfect balance, I would say, of doing both. So Genessier just happened to be like something we absolutely loved as we were making it. We were like, whoa, this is awesome. Like, we love doing this more than the super light, airy stuff.
I want to dive back into the short film Shovel. Let's talk about this a little bit, man. Was it more like a serial killer type deal, or give us a background on this a little bit?
Okay, so Shovel is a project that my friend Doug Newville, he is the one who was writing this project. He wanted to reinvent a new horror character. I mean, who doesn't want to do that, you know?
Sure, exactly.
There was this idea of this really freaky guy with a shovel, like just based on that. He took a story and it was just like, it's like, that could be really cool visually, you know, even if it didn't have any dialogue, it could be really cool. Like, you could kind of explain it without dialogue and just have it like more like a short film that's also a music video kind of. So it was all based on visual. He came up with a story that was really cool, and we went with it. And I think it's really cool. It's a pretty freaky concept. It's kind of like a serial killer movie, because it feels like a serial killer movie, but it also feels like kind of like a paranormal kind of movie where it's like, you know, something otherworldly is controlling something.
It's kind of like the old man from Home Alone who stands there with the shovel.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's it. That shovel.
That's kind of freaky. I mean, honestly, he's kind of scary if you're a little kid. I mean, what the hell? Some old man standing there with a dead look and shovel is like, oh, fuck.
Well, that's what happened with this. We took this to the live arena because I built a yearly haunted house right now. So I'm building a haunted house that has a pinball tournament in it.
That's awesome.
So it's kind of crazy. It's really crazy. So we put Shovel, that character, in there. He dressed up the part as this character, and he was in the last room. And 99% of the people would not go in that room. They're like, there's no way I'm going in that room. No way. And nobody went through it. There was probably 5 out of 50 people that went through there.
That's good. That's really good.
So I was like, I guess we got what we wanted out of that character.
For sure.
Yeah.
So your guys' current album, Graces the Bone, that's out now. What stands out the most about that album, either recording-wise or the response you get from it?
Yeah. I mean, the response is not exactly what I was expecting. I didn't know how many people even really listened to this kind of stuff, like really cared about like scary underground industrial, like super old school Skinny Puppy. I didn't know how many fans like that stuff.
Oh God, there's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. There definitely is. And they're everywhere. Like, there's a ton of people that love that. So I was like, oh, well, that's why. And we did it. And we did it with the intention of just making it super scary and feeling like really old, kind of worn down kind of vibe, just really freaky, but also still have like a beat to it and have a little pop sensibility here and there. And it just kind of melded into this weird thing, and people really were like, wow, this is like groovy. Doug Newville, his friend, was like, this is the best industrial album I've ever heard. And he's like a super huge fan of early Skinny Puppy. So that alone like motivated me. I was like, what? I was like, you think it's that good? He's like, yeah, it's amazing. So I'm kind of taken back just by his comments. And then there's been other people saying the same stuff, and this whole thing with Sean approaching us because he loved the sound so much. I was just like, I wasn't even expecting to do that at all. So, yeah.
You know, it's crazy, and they're right, man. There's a lot of people that's out there that still loves an industrial metal sound. And when you in my opinion, when you incorporated horror into that, you kicked it up another notch, because there's just people out there that eats, breathes, and sleeps this stuff so much.
Sweet. Yeah, and that's great to hear, because to have that community of people that like that is awesome. Because I always love working events that are like on the dark, scary side like that, and having those people show up. And you're like, man, you guys are awesome, you know. And that's how I feel that whole community is like. To know that there's a lot of them would be awesome. So we're going for it.
Back to Graces the Bone. Are there any songs off that album that stand out more to you than any on it as of right now possible? I mean, I know these probably change still to this day when you go back and listen to it, or you may cringe a little bit when you go listen to it.
Yeah, it's like so hard as an artist to like go back to your thing and go, oh yeah, I made that thing. Oh yeah, I remember doing that one part.
I don't remember that. I was drunk.
Yeah, like I don't even remember that whole song. Like, what the hell what was going on then? How did that happen? That's usually the first thing that comes to mind. But the second thing that came to mind is that African Lake of Death has such a cool, there's just something weird about that song. It's super like catchy. I really like that song a lot. And I like Graces the Bone a lot. That's the title of the album. I love that song. I think that one turned out exactly like what I was hoping to have it do. Kind of have like this, feels like you're underground, but it could be in like a stadium underground or something, you know, like huge environment underground kind of thing. That's like the old Fillmore that was here in Denver. It was like in this old like skate arena, and they never cleaned it. It was black everywhere. It was just gross. And I love that place because it's so scary. So it's the same thing.
Now, you mentioned you have one song that's already written right now for the new EP or album that you guys are going to be working on, but do you have any more songs written right now, or close to being done? Or let's talk about that a little bit.
We have 3 in the works. So we had 2 that we were initially like, okay, let's start doing some Genessier. And this is before Sean or any of the other deals were happening. And it was just kind of like, hey, it sounds like a cool time to do some scary stuff again. Do you want to do that? And we came up with 2 tracks that are pretty instrumental primarily, but they kind of got us going. And then this new track is us going like, okay, let's get going on getting a new album done. So we'll have 3 tracks, and definitely going to keep going. I have some new connections now, some people in town that I've been working with who want to be involved, and, you know, we'll see what happens with all that. Do some recording sessions.
So as an artist, though, do you like the EP route, or do you want to get that full album out to folks? Because, I mean, it seems like nowadays you have to keep putting EPs out or you get forgotten, and I think that's sad right now.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough because, I don't know, I mean, it's almost like singles now.
Yeah.
To me, it's like you have to keep like a stream of conscious thought of that thing that you like. And, you know, like if it's this band needs to release a new single every 3 months or something, you know, forever. So I like the album because you can actually get the whole idea of what you're doing out. You know, you can go through the whole emotional state of everything and get through the whole thought of what you were trying to do. I think an EP is hard because you have to cram it really fast and it feels like it's a sampling platter or something.
Yeah, there's no story to it. That's the way I
yeah,
think it. You know?
It's hard to get into it. You can get into it if you listen to it like 50 times in a row afterwards.
Yeah.
But, like, you have to do that. Otherwise, you're never going to get into it because it's like 4 songs. So it's like, it just doesn't ever, like, make any sense, I think, the EP route. I always strive for the record route. But obviously, as a musician, at the end of your recording, you go back and you go, are all these songs I really want to release on something? And then you have to decide, well, maybe that song's not right for it yet. Let's skip that for now. So then you have to do an EP. You're like, oh crap, I only have 5 songs. I thought we had more than that. But I'm gonna strive for full length because that's the goal. I think is to get a full length going. If I need to do an EP because there's no real it's not happening fast enough, then I will. But, you know, because I'd like to get it out there because I know that this stuff's starting to get bigger too in certain areas in the world. It's like people are getting into the old school, scary, haunted house, industrial stuff. And yeah, I just want to make sure that we get our stuff out there when we should if we're going to go that route.
Ryan, who will be producing this, or have you got anybody in mind possibly at the time, maybe?
Yeah, there's nobody who is releasing this for sure yet. I had my own record label because I did shoegazer music primarily for a bunch of bands that I represented, but I'm trying to keep this one loose right now. I'd like to see if anybody's interested. You know, we're in that phase of like, should we try to sell this to somebody and see what we can get? So we're at that phase.
In your own opinion, what do you hope the fans take away from this current album, or message you hope they hear while listening to it, or just any Genessier music whatsoever? What do you hope they get from it?
I just hope they get off their phones, stop looking at their stream of things, and like pay attention to some really dark stuff. Like they probably might have heard kind of, but I want them to be interested in it. You know, I'd like to just connect with people by giving them something that they have to go, what is that? That's crazy. Or whatever. Just get their heads into the music more.
Just imagine H.P. Lovecraft with this shit in it, man. Oh,
yeah, man. That would be so cool. Yeah. Be amazing.
There you go.
I'll do it.
There you go. How much growth musically have you seen this band and place yourself go through? Or has it just been more of a personal growth for all of you that's involved with this?
Yeah, I think, you know, I mean, when this happened, there was some crazy stuff happening in life. So it was easier to go back down this route because for the longest time I had been producing, because I was producing music for A Shoreline Dream, which was my main project that I was doing that was more on that progressive shoegazy kind of melodic stuff. And it just seemed like it's always timing. Like, you know, you get to a certain time, you're like, okay, been doing that, that's cool. But I want to do this because I can totally relate to this right now because I don't feel like lovey-dovey, but like I did before. I feel grittier and I want to like scream about something, you know? And I think that's how this has come to be. And I think even with my friend Eddie, who helped me work on that first album, it was just primarily me and him. We just were both at that same spot. It's crazy how that happens in music.
It's like
it usually always does.
It's like I've said, man, music is a universal voice for everybody, honestly.
Yeah, yes.
When you come into the recording studio, do you do anything differently during that writing and recording process to get away from everything to help keep your mind open and fresh to not let the music get stale, Ryan, or get bored with it? Do you do anything differently, possibly?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm always around it. So, like, I mean, I live in a studio, and I'm just always, if I don't have a way of recording what's going on, and it doesn't feel right. So if I don't have that way of doing that, then I feel weird, and things get weird, and it feels stale. But as long as I keep recording ideas and things, I feel everything's going good, and I just keep doing it.
What can fans expect at a show from Genessier who have not got to see you guys live as of yet? What are they going to get when they come to see you all live?
When they see us live, they are going to definitely be thinking, man, that guy is crazy. Yeah, that's usually what happens. But we played some shows and people were like, whoa, that was crazy. You're crazy. It's bloody. It's definitely choreographed. We try to make it look like there's a gore fest going on stage, or super scary. It's got to be it's a very, very nightmarish experience is what we're trying to convey.
Do you think that horror has been done? I don't want to say too much because I love horror music. I love it all, but do you think it's I guess, well done too much, actually? You know, I don't see a lot of people incorporating, like, I don't know, like the old TV sets, the old black and white stuff. I'd like to see a throwback like that. I mean, I know Rob Zombie kind of does it, but not to the that I like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's got to be a movement, you know, that propels it, because there's always that one or two bands that are, like, doing some weird, dark thing, but they never go anywhere with it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So they don't have that access to being able to be exposed. So nobody even knows it happens, but it's happening all the time. I think there needs to be a big movement of people, or a place like what happened in Tampa Bay with death metal or something like that, where there's just a bunch of people wanting to propel it in a new way.
So, good sir, in your own opinion, what does Genessier bring to the table for music that's not out there as of right now? I mean, I know nobody's reinventing the wheel, but what do you add to it?
I would say that, you know, we are bringing that nightmare back. We're not trying to bring this idea of finely produced, gorgeous electronic instrumentals and shit, stuff like that. I mean, nothing like that. We just want to bring the nightmare in and cross the path of horror and industrial, and make a statement visually as well as with the audio. And not make the audio be so overdone that it's just like the most compressed thing you've ever heard in your life.
Yeah, because it could be overdone. I mean, it could be really slammed overdone, and you're just like, well, why didn't you just do a fucking simple thing? Everything has to be complicated. Just something simple is the best.
It's just so overdone that it's like you don't even hear the music anymore. I'm like, there's so much being shown on the backside of what happens in music automatically from listening to it. You know where it's happening, how it's happening. It's just weird. I don't know.
How much support does Genessier get from venues? Plus, what about getting airplay for the music? Do you guys get a lot of support and airplay, maybe at all?
Yeah, when we released it, I can say that we are very much like I've been talking about. We didn't really think about doing anything big with it. We just wanted to do it. So we were like, let's just make this horror industrial kind of stuff. But we weren't thinking about even putting it out there. So we only played 2 shows. We had really good support about that. The venues loved us. The people that were there were like, oh, my God, you guys were so cool. I've never seen anything like that. And I know when people are lying to me nowadays. I've done it long enough that I know if somebody's like just trying to make me feel good about something.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
I really genuinely thought people liked it. So,
and then you'll find the ones that be around when they want tickets, and they're never around. So.
Yeah. Yep. Music.
There you go. What made you want to become a musician? What was that spark for you, Ryan, that said, yeah, that's what I want to do?
Oh boy, it's really tricky. I think probably when I saw like that first Iron Maiden album or something. Mm-hmm. And I saw that album art, and I was like, who is making this? What is this? I don't even know what this is. I got to buy this. What is this? I'm like a little kid. I'm like, where do I get money to buy that? I have to get this now. And I just knowing that these people somehow resonated with people halfway across the world that didn't even, little kids, was a huge influence, because it's like, oh, you can influence people just across the other country, across the world in different age groups just from music. That's amazing. And I just knew I wanted to do that because I thought that was a cool thing.
I have interviewed many folks on this show, and they have said the same thing, that an album art cover caught their eye, and that's why they bought it, and that they've loved that band since then.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And then what's going to happen if there's no albums out that you can see somewhere? Like, how does that happen anymore? Do you have to, like, what? Yeah. I don't get it.
Yeah.
That's a whole different subject. But, yeah, that is where it came from, though.
Is there a country that stands out or even shocks you that Genessier gets support from, or your music even gets played in that area?
Anything with Europe, I'm surprised even anybody knows what it is yet, because it didn't get really promoted well enough. Because at the time, it couldn't get promoted, not to the extent of the other bands that were on the record label. So Genessier was kind of like a, in the closet kind of band. I mean, it's on the shelf. It's not ready. It wasn't ready yet. It's like, okay, we made that thing. It's pretty sweet, but what are we going to do with it? We can't afford it. So, now we're at the phase that, like, okay, let's do it, because we have people that are big that want to know what it is. So I never even talked to anybody in Europe. Even knowing from Sean that people in Europe knew who it was, I'm just like, how would they have known? I don't get it. So
we're living in the digital era right now of recording albums and to get them out quicker. Plus, we got social media to reach out to more fans who have not got to hear of Genessier. Do you like this that we're living in right now? Possibly.
In some ways, it is really nice. It's cool to connect to people that you would never meet ever. So I can't say that that's a bad thing. I wish that there was more value in music overall, because it's like totally devalued and nobody makes any money. Even like the big artists don't make even close to what they were making in the 90s. So it's just like, that's, I think, as far as where we're at right now, that's the biggest problem, is I don't know how it can keep getting made. So
you see big albums, you see big bands right now, they're always constantly touring. That's how they're...
Yeah, and their shirts are like $45 starting.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? Why is it? I went to the Rob Zombie Marilyn Manson show in Denver, and it was like, yeah, the lowest price was $45 for a shirt, normal shirts. I'm like, what?
Wow.
How is this happening? That's where they're making their money.
Top album or albums for 2018 for you, Ryan, if anything possibly?
Well, God, I'm going to have to look at the date, because if it's Drab Majesty, if that was a 2018, that's the best album in the last, 10 years. There's this Drab Majesty album. It just sounds amazing. It's like goth music, but it's so good. Have you heard of them?
No, I have not. I'll check it out.
Drab Majesty. There's this album, the brand new album is so good. And same with this other band, Turkey, and they're called She Passed Away.
Good Lord. What a name.
And they're really good. And they're from Turkey, and they're singing in Turkish, and it's like goth Turkish, and that's like probably one of my favorites right now. Those guys are amazing. I can't stop listening to them. They're good. My musical tastes are everywhere, though. So,
what are the plans for 2019 for Genessier?
Big plans, big lofty plans. I'm hoping that we can get to the point that we're with a label that has a financial backing of sort to get us to actually go on tour in Europe and whatnot, and try to get it out there more, and get a new album done. That's the big thing. Try to get this album done, get a new album done, and get our name out there more now that we're ready to release it to the world.
Folks, Genessier's current album, Graces the Bone, is out right now. Plus, you want to get out and check out the horror short film called Shovel. Plus, Genessier did the soundtrack for that, plus the score. Ryan, how can folks stay in touch with you guys? Buy some merchandise, anything and everything, Genessier, how can they do that?
I would say just get on Facebook and go to the Genessier page, because I'm managing all that stuff. So I know I'm going to get all that stuff.
And before I let you go, good sir, would you care to do a promo for my show?
Oh, for sure. That'd be awesome. All right. This is Ryan from Genessier, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Everybody stick around. We got some great music coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour and BODS Mayhem Radio Network. Please get out and check out our Facebook page. It has our podcast link plus our YouTube link, and plus get out and check out Genessier. If you like horror stuff, you will not be disappointed. Ryan, thank you so much. Merry Christmas and the best of 2019 to you guys.
Thanks, John. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a great holiday yourself.
Thank you, man. You too.
Thanks.